morning, gentlemen. Well, I'm calling about my helleborus. I'm looking at it outside my window, and of course all the leaves are laying flat on the ground, so I guess Kim's going to tell me to go cut them all off.
Yeah, not yet. Soon.
Not yet? Well, look at all the little blooms. They used to be this nice creamy white, and they're kind of pinky. Do you think they're dead?
No, well, they get shrivelly and sort of wrinkly when they're dead, because I've had that before where they froze. And then, I lost out on a lot of blooms. Yeah. But this year, hopefully with the snow we had, they'll be protected. Or, some people did actually go out and put pots over them or something to protect them from the cold.
Yeah, because when we had that cold weather, there was no snow. That's a big deal.
Right.
I did my homework, and I put Nature's Gold mulch over mine.
Oh, there you go.
And I just took it off yesterday, and lo and behold, the blossoms are just going to push very quickly now. So I'm very excited.
You're killing me. You're killing me.
I'm killing you softly with my mulch?
Yes. And you know what? See, the thing is I mulched, and I had lots of things to do because of different parts of the garden being ripped up. So I didn't have any, and I don't have a container big enough that fits. I mean, this thing is like 3-4 feet wide, right? So there you go.
Okay, well, this isn't the complaint department, so...
Anyway, well, listen, I'm going to remember this for next year. Let's have a pile of it over in the corner we're here.
Yeah, and it's wise, in the Okanagan at least, to have a bag of it sort of in the house, thawed out. So because sometimes when you got it outside and the frost comes and it's all frozen up.
Good idea. I never thought of that. Thank you so much.
Okay.
There you go.
Okay, bye-bye, guys.
Thanks for the call. Take care.
Take care.
Bye.
Bye-bye.
You bet. 250-862-2525 to get through to us locally here. 1-888-780-4273 to get through to us from Victoria or anywhere online. We are here to answer your gardening questions. Now, the Garden Club, and we'll hear from them today again because the Garden Club is putting on this exciting event. It's in February 24th, Gardening into the Future. Got some great speakers, including our one and only Ken Salvail, who is going to speak, be one of the 4 speakers. There's booths. The Bonsai Club's going to be there. I got a feeling the Orchid Club may be there. All sorts of people to wander around and look at. So, and the price is reasonable. The price is $50 for the day.
Yep.
You get 4 world class, national class speakers. Well, no, they're world class. They're world class speakers, and lunch, and you get to go and see all these booths and show us. And we will get the Garden Club is going to phone in, a representative will phone in at some point today to talk about that, because that is really
sounds like a lot of fun for sure. Yeah, it's going to be a good one.
Yeah, and I've been working my buns off actually in the shop, getting ready, on the bus, which we're leaving in 12 days.
Yep,
we're going to be leaving for Seattle, and every year when we go, I make gifts in my workshop. I've got a whole whack of little wooden vases that a test tube fits into. You can put a bud, like a small one single flower in, and I'm making a bunch of those. I've got some pizza paddles, some big pizza paddles,
Wow.
And I've got boxes.
Full assortment.
I've even got some grinders. I got 3 grinders I'm going to give away. They're herb grinders, you know what I mean?
Yep. Oh, yeah.
And let's see, what else? Tops. I got some of these spinning tops that I make.
Yeah.
On the lathe, and so
very cool.
Lots of fun. And now that I've met Louie, I got this feeling I'm going to want to do some bronze casting. But my dear Donna is a little concerned about that because
you have too many hobbies.
What else you want to do, Don?
Too many hobbies. Look, pick 10 and just stick with the 10.
Well, yeah, that's right. Okay, well, we talked about the genus of the week, the Crassula family. There's a lot more than what I own in the Crassulas, and Ken's going to get me a cutting of his variegated ovata one.
Wendy's got a bunch of cuttings going. She's always on the cutting.
She's addicted. She's addicted.
She's definitely. Yeah, we did. What did we do the other? Or she did some different plectranthus. There's a bunch of plectranthus that are nice. Swedish ivies and really nice collection of different types and the some salvias and all sort of things. Some geraniums and it's that time of year just to have some fun. If you have a grow light and a little heating pad, you're good to go.
Heating pad's essential.
Yeah, we've got the onions have come up. They're just small. There may be not quite a quarter of an inch high yet, but they're growing, germinating like crazy. And what else? Some lettuce and just assortment of early things, some snapdragons, to try to get a little jump on things for the spring. And we've had great success with those snaps, collecting the seeds from the previous year and growing them on.
Now, are these the taller snaps?
Yeah,
I like
cuts.
the tall ones.
Yeah,
the little dwarf ones are great for borders and whatnot, but the tall snapdragons, it's like the tall zinnias and the tall snapdragons, the tall
good for
dahlias.
cut flowers. You need an extra long stem if you're going to cut any of these for vases, that sort of thing, for sure. And I just want to mention too, Wendy, if you're listening, I did forget my cell phone at home today, which is the first time I think I've ever done that. So just as a heads up, if you try to text me or call me, good luck with that.
Good luck with that.
You might hear my phone ring in the other room.
Text me or call me.
Yeah, that's right.
I don't mind talking to your dear wife.
Yeah.
So as we move through this, I want to ask you. There's on the Crassula family with the ovata. There's a small leaf jade and a big leaf jade, which is kind of two main ones of them. Do you have any of the small?
No.
Okay, because I am small out. I'm out of the small one. I don't have the small.
You're deprived of the small leaf.
So
jade, yeah.
So I'll have to go and buy a small plant, and I'm sure a lot of the garden centers have them. I always buy small plants.
Yep.
And it's interesting because I've dealt with lots of young landscapers, and a lot of them are very, very good. Some of them, they're all right. But the interesting thing is they all want to have, they don't like planting small things.
No.
They want to plant big stuff. Now, in some cases, big stuff works, but a lot of times big stuff is not as reliable. It's got bad habits from the nursery. It's pot-bound. All sorts of bad
That's a
things.
clientele thing because, some clients, they're like, just get the big ones.
They just have no patience, Ken.
Well, if they can afford it and, they should hire experts that can be sure that those things survive, that would be ideal. But it's complicated, right? It's plants.
Well, it is, except
the little ones grow so much easier.
When I've ever planted anything, I planted small, and bingo. If you look after it, like for instance, not that
especially trees.
We don't plant cedars much anymore because they're so water hungry and they don't do well in the Okanagan as they do down at the coast. However, in the days when I did recommend cedars and we were planting them as hedges and whatnot, I suggested to people to buy a small 2-gallon plant, which maybe be about 2.5, 3 feet high.
Yeah,
and if it's planted at that age. The first year it's in the ground, if you plant it in the spring, it'll put 1.5 feet on.
Oh, yeah. And especially if you're tearing that root apart and getting them in early. It's the one thing that is harsh on plants, and I know I've been looking at some dead plants, where you can see the pot, the shape of the pot in the roots, even though they manage to live about 10 years and then die out. But so spreading those roots out, especially if you can get out early, it's a little difficult in the Okanagan because of the heat.
It's tough to do
because
that.
it's very stressful on them. But you can still do it. You just have to be gentle.
Well watered, and massaging or massaging them.
Yeah.
Now we have Wendy calling in. Were your ears hurting, Wendy?
No, but I texted Ken, and then I heard a ding in the other room.
There you go.
Well,
I'm. Besides that, I'm calling because I have got, and I don't know how Ken's brought them home, probably from you, Don, but I've got an amazing collection of Haworthia. They're just the coolest plants.
Yeah,
I just discovered them a few years ago, but oh my God, I absolutely love them.
Yeah, so, that is another genus I'll be talking about as we go through the spring here, because that is one of the favorites, isn't it?
Anyway, that's all I wanted to say.
Guys. In fact, Ken gave me a tiny little Haworthia that's doing very, very well.
Yeah. The flat one, it's got flat tips.
Yeah.
The leaves are normally pointed on the ends, and these ones are short and blunt. Very nice.
Yeah. So Gasteria, Haworthia, and Crassula, these are all great genuses that you can play with. Wendy, thanks for the call.
Okay, bye, guys.
Take care.
Thanks for calling. Bye-bye.
And now she knows your phone is at home.
Yes.
The ding tells her that.
Yep, that'll happen occasionally. Luckily, I remembered my tips and plants of the week, so
Well, there you
that's
go.
good.
But you know what, Ken? Easily done, and I know that you rarely have ever done that. Probably the very first time. Right on. Well, we got to take a short break here, and when we come back, we got Dan Bruce calling in, giving us his words of wisdom today. We will be back with the Garden Show after this short break. And we're back with you, and we've got our friend Dan Bruce on the line. Dan, I know you've got quite a collection of plants there, and I don't know if you were listening to the tips of the plants of the week this today, because I was talking, my genus was Crassula, and I've got about 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 species of Crassula, and Ken's going to get me another one of variegated ovata. So I just don't know whether you have a bunch of Crassula that I need.
Well, if I did, I might not tell you.
Oh, okay. Well, there you go. Yeah. Well, I have Hippistrum envy. Ken was telling me that your Hippistrum is looking pretty darn good.
Oh, yes. Well, he came and visited it yesterday.
I know. He was drooling out of his mouth when he came in this morning. Yeah.
Yeah, there you go.
So anyway, what have you got up your sleeve today, Dan?
Well, people occasionally sort of mention that sort of Victorian tradition of the language of flowers, where certain flowers, certain plants mean certain things, you know.
Right.
And actually that goes way back into sort of semi-prehistoric times, where certain plants, herbs, trees, and so forth had significance in various parts of the world. But it was Kate Greenaway in England in the mid-19th century who sort of, if you like, formalized this thing. And she was an artist, a writer. She illustrated particularly children's books and was very, very popular. Passed away in 1901. But her Language of Flowers is a little booklet that's out and about there somewhere. It's being reprinted all the time. And you could in fact create quite a message using these various plants in one way or another.
Have you got examples?
I just pulled out a few examples. I mean, the fig represents argument.
Okay. So if you give a fig plant to somebody, you are starting an argument?
It could be taken that way. And the peony stands for bashfulness.
Okay. Just any peony?
Apparently.
Okay. Bashfulness.
I suppose a tree peony would be really bashful.
Yeah. There you go.
And not surprisingly, the oleander, its message is beware.
Oh, of course, because it's poisonous.
Yes, don't be putting that in your mouth.
No, no. Oh, there's on the oleander though. I mean, that is something. There have been situations where people had cut oleanders in cut flowers, and the water was, of course, was poisonous. And when a child over the, this is I don't know if it's an old tale or something, but a child drank the water and got very sick, and I think he died. But yeah, so that's not a good thing. Oleanders are very, very poisonous.
And raspberries symbolize remorse. So if you've had a falling out with your sweetheart, you can sort of approach an apology by a bunch of raspberries.
Yeah, put some raspberry jam on a toast.
I think a raspberry cheesecake would have a quicker result.
That's really interesting. So there's a book on this.
And then you can sort of move on past the remorse and present some hazelnuts, which are reconciliation.
That's interesting, Because, I mean, remorse, the oleander thing almost made sense, but remorse for a raspberry, reconciliation on a hazelnut? I guess if she made a decision way back then and wrote a book about it, it's got to be true.
Oh, it's in print. It must be true.
It's got to be true. And it's not even on the internet. Well, it might be.
Well, there you go. But I understand that it's it would be unwise to present red roses to another man's wife if he was present.
If he was what?
White roses would be totally acceptable.
Okay. So you could give your friend's wife white roses, and there's no problem. But if you gave her red roses, you're in deep caca.
Well, you could be. You're running a risk.
Yeah, you could. You could have her bodyguard come after you.
Yes.
Yeah, your wife's bodyguard.
Anyway, that, as I said, that goes back. That is, I think, is taken up by Shakespeare, and I believe it's in Hamlet. I'd have to check that.
Love is like a red, red rose. How's that go?
No, not that one. It was where I think it's there is a passage where certain plants are named and they're given meanings. As I said, I think it's in Hamlet, but I have been known to confuse my plays sometimes.
Yeah, well, Shakespeare.
At my age, confusion comes easily.
Now, Dan, last week we didn't talk. We did speak to you last week, but I forgot to ask you a very, very important question. On the Thursday prior to last week's show, it was our dear friend Robert Burns' birthday.
Yes.
And and so I had Dad come on and sing the star Robbie Burns on the radio here, which was kind of cool. So, what are your thoughts on Robert Burns? I mean, here's a guy that only lived to 32 years old, and he, I think, from what I understand, he drank himself to death or something with scotch. But they still celebrate his birthday all these years later, centuries, decades later.
Yes.
And they still celebrate his birthday. What is it, just because they want to party or what?
Well, I mean, it's a great excuse.
Yeah, yeah.
But the thing is that Robbie Burns was, if you like, Scotland's national poet.
Okay.
And, I mean, he wrote a tremendous amount of poetry, and it appealed to the Scottish national feeling, Scottish national pride, Scottish national culture.
Yeah.
And, of course, the Scots scattered all over the world, as I was talking to Kathy Drew, the Friends of Fintry president, and I said, that everywhere you turn, there's a Scotsman there doing something. I mean, turn over a rock, and there's a raccoon and a Scotsman under every one.
Yeah, and of course, there's Nova Scotia, which is...
well, there you go. And, of course, the Robbie Burns' poetry is a sort of unifying thread that these widely scattered individuals and communities and families can sort of, in a sense, reestablish their roots.
Well, I'm glad we were able to talk about old Robert Burns because,
of course, it's made famous or infamous, depending on how you look at it, by the inclusion in all of this of the haggis.
Of course, yeah. The haggis.
And I can tell you from my experience and from others who I've spoken to, haggis can vary tremendously in quality.
Oh, yes.
Well, I imagine.
Well, I had the real stuff in Scotland. We went to an event there.
Yes.
And they served us haggis, and it was supposed to be the real deal. And it was fine. It tastes like kind of hamburger and whatever.
Yeah.
It wasn't all that. I guess as long as you don't know what's in it, you're good.
Well, I would like to know what I'm putting in my mouth. This is one of the reasons why I kind of avoid this Beyond Beef type of thing, because I have no idea what's in that.
Yeah, well, vegetables. Look at Dan, we got to run.
I don't want to eat meat. I eat vegetables, fruit, nuts, seeds.
Yeah. We've got to go to the break here. But great to talk to you, Dan, and we will hear from you next week, I'm sure. Take care.
That might well happen.
Okay, buddy. Take care.
Okay.
Thanks,
Bye-bye
Dan.
now.
Take care. Yeah.
Bye.
Bye-bye.
And on that note, we're going to take a short break. When we come back, we have Linda from the Garden Club is going to tell us all about the event coming up, which we've already spoken of, but she can elaborate on it and make a much better statement about the event coming up than we can.
Fabulous.
We will do that when we come back with the Garden Show after this short break. And as I promised, it's Linda from the Kelowna Garden Club, which is 100 years old this year. Linda's, probably a third of that. Good morning, Linda.
You're being very kind. No, I'm not 100.
No, the Garden Club is 100. You're like 29.
Oh, you're very kind. I just wanted to mention something. We were at the at Gushingen Gardens, and behind the milk shed, there's this wonderful display of snowdrops. So spring isn't too far away.
Oh,
Nice.
what side of the? I'm just thinking it might be on the south side where it's getting. But we have had no sunshine.
It's one near the condos.
Oh, okay, well, that's the kind of the east side of it. But that's very, very cool. I'm going to go over and take a picture.
Yeah.
Is it the
they're
double or
lovely.
the single? There's Galanthus. Galanthus, the snowdrop,
I think
comes in
they
a
were-
double as well.
I think they were singles.
That's the common one. Which
But it's lovely anyway.
Oh, man.
Beautiful. Yeah.
Yeah.
Thank you
Very
for that.
nice.
And you also mentioned earlier that you were wondering whether or not the Orchid Club was going to be at our event on February 24th. And yes, excuse me. And yes, they are.
Oh, wonderful.
Along with the Bonsai Group.
Wonderful. Yeah.
Yeah.
That's,
So our event is it's called Gardening into the Future. It's we're featuring 4 fabulous speakers and you as the MC, which is fantastic. The tickets are $50 each, which includes the 4 speakers and lunch. They're available through Eventbrite, or you can go on our Garden Club website, which is www.kelownagardenclub, and look on the banner across the top for events, and there's a drop-down menu there. But in addition to the speaker section of it, we're going to have a portion that is free to the public, and it's going to have several organizations, garden-related, that are going to be on display, such as the Orchid organization, the Bonsai Club, Floral Arts Club, Master Gardeners. We're going to have various demonstrations, such as seed starting, kitchen composting, floral floral arrangements, all sorts of things that should be really of interest and relevant to the general public as well.
well, this is.
And we're excited.
Yeah,
It's
no
only
kidding.
3 weeks today.
Yeah. And it is a lot in celebration of the 100th anniversary of the Garden Club.
Well, very much so. And several of our members have been researching some of the history of our club, and we'll be laying that out as well. I mean, it's fabulous. This organization started when Kelowna was strictly an agricultural community, agricultural, horticultural community. And it's still dynamic and it's still thriving. We have an active membership. We do things like excursions. We have lectures. We have workshops.
Open
If
gardens.
you love gardening, we're the club.
Yeah. And we have membership that opens up their gardens for people to come and visit.
Yeah.
It's great.
And that's all. Well, you were kind enough to open up your garden, which was really like going to the cookie jar.
We enjoyed that. We may not be able to do it this year because in June we're having a new baby in the family.
Oh, exciting!
It's very exciting. So we're looking forward to that.
But we did appreciate the fact that you did, and many other members do open up their gardens, and you can just have a little snoop around and get some ideas. It's great.
Linda, really, we want to encourage people to take part in that event, the Garden Club event. It's probably the premier event that you've put on in many years.
Yes.
And it's going to be great. There are also events coming up. Of course, the flower show at Gushingen in June.
And the plant sale on May 4th.
Sale on May 4th. There's all sorts of things.
Garden tour.
We'll keep that up. The garden tours. And folks listening in Victoria, you're welcome to come to the Okanagan and take part in these things. And if you have anything in Victoria that's coming up that we need to know about, that you would like us to talk about, Victoria, give us a call. You can do that too.
Absolutely.
Linda, thank you so much.
It's a pleasure, and thank you both very much.
You betcha.
Thanks, Linda.
Appreciate the call.
Take care.
Bye-bye.
Bye-bye. Yeah, very nice.
No, I have a frog in my throat.
What a way to kick off the year, Just this is going to be an amazing year for all kinds of gardening things. And what a way to kick off the year. Start with that. Go on to the CD Saturdays, CD Sundays, in each of our communities, and then get in there.
I apologize for coughing, but I've got a frog in my throat. But we do want to talk to Lynn. We're going to get Lynn on the line here. We've got a couple of minutes left in the.
Hello.
Hello, Lynn.
Hi. Happy February 3rd to both of you.
Yeah, thank you.
I have so much moss in my garden this year, and I don't know what the best way to get rid of it is.
Right. Well, moss is always around because of continuous moisture. If we understand a little bit about moss, is that it doesn't really have roots like other plants do. It's like a living sponge is what it is. So it needs to be in constant contact with moisture. So anything that we do to deter that, so that could be, even top dressing, say, a lawn with a sort of a coarse, sandy material, that may help. But typically you'll find that wherever there's moss, there's a reason why it's moist like that. And it's usually because of clay soil, potentially that doesn't drain well. It's often a shady location, or even just living in a climate where you have a lot of precipitation can be the thing. Remembering that through the winter months, that's Mossville. That's moss goes just absolutely crazy, starting in the fall right through until spring. It's like it's in its heyday, and then once summer comes and it slows down, it gets drier and hotter, then it just kind of goes dormant, of course. But remember that the types of moss killers that you can purchase on the market are basically like an iron, some type of a, what do they call it again? Some type of an iron product. So it's like almost like a fertilizer in a way, and then you'd sprinkle it over the area, and it desiccates that moss. Yeah, D-moss is one of the products, and those can be used. Rooftops, that sort of thing, where it's it can be a bit of an issue. And then the other side of it is we often say, well, if it's in the lawn, your lawn is green and the moss is green, so just go with the flow, right? But it's up to the individual. But it does indicate,
doesn't it, Ken, as you were saying, a poor drainage.
Yeah.
You never see moss on a golf course.
Oh.
Yeah, it's because
you never see it on a golf course.
They're always aerating and dethatching, power raking, and top dressing with sand and fertilizing. And fertilizer is sort of the enemy of moss because it's salty. And just remembering that the moss doesn't have roots, so anything you do to kind of pull water out of it by putting anything salty like fertilizer on it, that really causes a problem.
Well, it seems to be the worst, like where my strawberry rows are. Like where I have planted all my garlic, there's no moss there at all, but it's really bad where the strawberries are. And I was going to pull it all off, but then it takes quite a bit of the soil off, too, I guess, when you take that layer of moss off.
It's sitting right on the surface, so you can use a hoe, and just hoe it and then scrape it off that way. And then putting a mulch back on so you don't have just barren soil. Always use some sort of a compost-based mulch where it's sort of fluffy, and that's what moss doesn't really like.
Big help. That'd be a big help.
Another thing that I've put on I have lichen in another area, and I just sprinkle baking soda on there, but I don't know if that's harmful to the other plants or not.
No, it's not really overly harmful. It's a concentration thing. So when you have the straight, baking soda, it's quite strong, and if you were to dilute it a bit in water, that would reduce that concentration.
Is it too early to plant like spinach and stuff like that yet?
I think I think I've got peas coming up.
Oh,
yeah. Where are you located? Are you in Kelowna?
Right along Mission Creek, kind of.
Okay, yeah. So you can get it started. Remember, just use little plastic tents over it when the temperatures get cold, or get them started indoors, and then just keep them cool because they like to grow when it's cold.
Yeah, well, last year I bought one of those big yellow bags of soil, garden soil, and it's right along the garage, so it's protected that area where I was going to plant the spinach.
Yeah.
So it might do well there.
It's worth the try, you bet.
Thank you very much.
Thank you, Lynn. Thanks for the call.
Yeah, thanks for calling.
You betcha.
Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.
Well, here we are back with you for another hour of Garden Show, and we do invite your calls, as the gentleman said. There's our phone numbers, and give us a shout because we're here to answer your gardening questions. And right around the corner is the big season, the big gardening season. So there's so much going on, and we appreciate being here to share our experiences with you every Saturday morning on the radio here. It was about 2 degrees this morning in Kelowna in the backyard. And
2 degrees when I drove in, so it's fairly consistent.
Victoria's 7.
Nice.
Victoria's 7.
Very nice. Yeah.
But it's just incredible, Ken, what's going on here with our February weather in comparison to even last year. Last year it got a little chillier in February.
Yep.
But right up to the 17th of February, it's still like 5 above in the daytime. Goes down to a little bit cooler at night at the end of the month, -1, -2. And as a matter of fact, in a week or 10 days, there's going to be -5 at night. But in the daytime, it warms right back up. So it's quite incredible, actually, the winter we're having, other than that big blast that we had. And
it wasn't much, really.
But the blast that we had in the Okanagan and in Victoria as well, Victoria had some cool weather. Yeah. That blast was anticipated. We knew it was coming. So anybody that didn't cover some things that should have been covered, bad on you. Because, I mean...
Well, you got to, that's, we all, it's this thing, you can pay attention to a thermometer outside, right? Yeah. And track it every single day, except for like a week or two a year, and you just happen to be that week aligned with the weather that came in, and you just missed it, missed all the announcements and stuff. But it's tough on gardeners sometimes. Just these rapid changes in temperature are what are really the hardest on plants, really.
It is. We're going to go back to the phone lines because we've got Ray joining us. Good morning, Ray.
Good morning. I have a question to do with a maple tree that I bought from the city. Wanted to take one ring of branches off with this warm weather. Is that?
Now, this is you want to take you want to raise the canopy. Is that what you're trying to do?
Right.
Yeah.
Correct.
You can do that. Just when you take scaffold branches off, just make sure you're not cutting too close to the trunk. Flush cutting.
Inch out? Or?
Yeah. There's a thing that you can recognize on there called a branch collar. And you don't want to cut into that branch collar because that branch collar is part of the trunk. If you cut into that branch collar, you're wounding the trunk, causing decay cavities possibly and future issues. So
I've seen trees with something painted on where they've cut branches off. It's kind of a white.
Yeah, it's old school. The white stuff, quite often painted at the base of the tree, is to stop a thing called southwest damage. But the pruning paint that's been available over the years, the black pruning paint, has been something people put on wounds. It's called wound dressing. However, it's now, through studies and university studies and whatnot, it's not helpful. In fact, it could even be harmful. So we let the tree do its own thing, but just don't cut into that branch collar.
Mm-hmm. Okay. Thank you very much.
And you're going to find some bleeding going on right now. At this time of year, when you cut into a maple tree, you'll get some bleeding. Not an issue, not a big deal, but you will. If you want to avoid the bleeding, wait until you get about 2 or 3 inches of new growth in the spring, and then cut it, and it won't bleed.
Oh, okay. Thank you very much.
You're welcome.
Yeah, thanks for calling in.
Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.
Bye now. We've got Sandy joining us. Good morning, Sandy.
Morning.
Good morning.
How are you this morning, Sandy?
Not bad.
Good.
It's that time of year when your stored stuff starts needing to be used.
Mm-hmm.
And my garlic is starting to sprout in the house. I separated it all and took out the sprouted ones.
Mm-hmm.
Huh.
Should I be able to plant those right now outside?
Sure.
Yeah, well, it would certainly slow them down for sure. I would just get them right down fairly deep. Like they usually recommend from 2 to 4 inches deep for garlic, I'd be in that 4-inch range and give it a try. I mean, it certainly wouldn't hurt, and usually the cooling down would slow it and almost take it to a stop, and hold it back a bit, and then it'll start to grow eventually.
Yeah, because I planted my garlic last fall like I was supposed to, but the stuff that I haven't used is now starting to sprout.
That's interesting because where are you keeping it, Sandy?
Oh, in a cold room.
Okay. Is it kind of high humidity in there?
No, not at all.
It's just getting excited. Yeah, it just thinks it's in the ground. It wants to grow.
Ours is still hanging in the kitchen.
Oh, okay.
And it's not sprouting.
Yeah, well, I separated out a bunch that aren't, but the ones that are, I need to use.
You want to plant
to do
them.
something. They're like a good cereal bowl size.
Absolutely.
Really?
Get them out in the garden. They'll be happy.
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
Okay, dear.
Thanks. Should I cover them?
Oh, sure, yeah. With like a bit of straw or something like that, or compost. Yeah, I would buffer them.
Spring planting.
Yeah, they'll you want them to kind of go slow at this point, and so getting them out will slow them for sure.
And you can do what Dominic Ramponi does, and that is crush it all up and smear it on your toast in the morning.
Yep.
Yeah, well, I've got an awful lot that aren't with the sprouted tops, so
There you go.
Yeah.
Garlic's a great thing to have. We grow a lot of it, and it's one thing I'll keep growing. And stop growing potatoes because I got that flea beetle. But garlic, it's a great thing to grow. Easy to grow in the Okanagan. Yeah.
Awesome.
We'll experiment this year then.
Yeah.
Perfect.
Well, let us know how it goes.
Yeah. Okay. Take care.
Thanks,
Bye-bye.
Sandy.
Okay.
Take
Bye
care.
now.
Bye-bye.
Yeah. You grow garlic, don't you?
Oh yeah. Yeah. Every year I grow about maybe 20 to 30 heads, something like that, and then often I'll keep. We're not huge garlic users. We use a little bit from time to time, but some people put it on their toast.
In your neighborhood, Ken.
That's why.
Yeah, that's why you have all the vampires. They're coming around and doing their thing, and you don't have enough garlic around.
I was wondering why they were starting to congregate. Have to get more garlic going.
Yeah, I love my garlic. I will eat a clove, just like chew a clove.
Yeah. Well, it naturalizes, right? Like I know several places here in the Okanagan where it just naturalizes on hillsides, and it's amazingly tough plant. Yeah. And I mean, in our climate being so dry, you'd think it wouldn't survive, but it's fine. That's what it's. I think that's sort of its normal. They don't get as big when you're growing them that dry, but they are a plant that can grow pretty much naturalized. I just, when we first moved into our property, we had some garlic, and I just went around sort of scattering it here and there throughout the garden, and sure enough, it naturalized and grows around in areas, and then after a couple of years, I pulled them out, and they're just beautiful big heads. Yeah, just here and there, and they're fine.
Well, for my little garden, it's a bit of a pain, so I every couple of years, I go through and clean out all the little baby garlic.
Yeah.
And I try and cut the scapes off before they go to seed.
Yes.
Because it can be a pain in a small area.
Yeah. But it doesn't help when Ken's around scattering seed everywhere.
And you just come by the yard and scatter seeds.
I'm like Johnny Appleseed, except the
Johnny Garlic seed.
The garlic
Kenny Garlic
side.
seed.
Yeah, there you go.
There you go. Well, 250-862-2525 to get through to us locally here. 1-888-780-4273 is the number to get through if you're in Victoria listening. And we love to hear from you. It's like I say, we've been doing this now since 1983, every Saturday morning, and we like being here, and we like to share our interest. I got a friend, Ken, that's got those hop plants, 6 hop plants, 6 hop vines.
Oh yes,
to give away.
Right.
And you can call me or email me, and I will pass the info on to you of the gentleman that has these hop plants. And I know that there's been some discussion about it being invasive and whatnot, but I believe it's got to be a certain type of hops that is invasive because Donnie Stoltz, his hop plants are fine and they're confined and they've been there for years, and these vines have been going up his trellis there for years.
They spread by roots and rhizomes sometimes, and the seeds. You see, if somebody's harvesting the hops, that's the seed, the flowers, right?
Yeah.
So, but I don't know. I think it's they're opportunistic like other plants, and they get in the right spot, they will take off and grow. And if they get into the wild, they've got a beautiful scaffolding, so they would just climb like crazy. They're fast growing. They'll grow 20 feet in a year easily, so they can get to be a fair size.
There might be some. I know this. Sometimes the hops that you buy in a garden center might be kind of an ornamental hop or something like that. I don't know. There's some variegated leaf ones.
Yeah, there's golden ones and all different types. It's not my favorite plant, but they're fine. They're certainly easy to grow, and if you grow your own beer, get it? Yeah, you need the hops, you need the barley. You're good to go.
Well, there you go. The garden tour is happening, and it ties in with the 100th anniversary of the garden club.
Yeah.
So we're going to talk about that. We got to take a short break here. We do invite your calls. And we will be back with the Garden Show after this short break. Coming up, we're going to be visiting Elaine Cameron in her garden in 1953. We go back in time. We have a time machine on the radio today and every week to get back into Elaine Cameron's garden. But first of all, we want to talk to Shelley from Victoria. Good morning, Shelley. How's it going in Victoria today?
Hey, good morning. Thanks for talking with me.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I'm checking in. I have got a garden bed in the ground and some raised beds.
Mm-hmm.
And every fall I try to mulch them with some chopped up leaves so that we don't have weeds growing over the winter. And then if there's anything that's still in there, I can kind of protect it.
Yeah.
And so it hasn't rained very much this winter, and the leaves haven't really broken down very much. And last winter it was similar. The gardener that comes by to help me said, "Oh, you got to take all those leaves off now before you start your garden." And that kind of is confusing to me because it seems like the leaves should be going into the soil.
Right.
So because they haven't been broken down super well, because there hasn't been a lot of rain, do I dig them in or mix them in? Or do I remove them? Like, I don't really know what to do now.
Yeah, well, it is a confusing thing in a way. It has to do with sort of the nitrogen cycle and the carbon-nitrogen cycle and ratio. It's when you have leaves that are relatively fresh, meaning leaves that fell this fall, they haven't totally decomposed yet. So the nitrogen part of the leaf, which is the green part, is gone. So what's left is predominantly carbon. And so there's a lot of nutrients in there, and they're super valuable. And leaf mold is one of the secrets of great gardens, is having leaf mold available. So in other words, old leaves. But it can take up to a year or so for those leaves to break down enough to be super beneficial in the garden. And I've done it before where I covered all my beds with about 6 inches of leaves in the fall. And some of them I just tried to plant in. And I found that the nitrogen levels were so low that the plants just didn't want to grow. So I actually did remove all those leaves off the surface. I like to put them on there because the worms actually come up from time to time and will eat those leaves, which is a great thing, that breaks them down. So all the leaves that are down in touch with the soil seem to break down quite rapidly, but any ones on the top that are sort of drying out or not broken down, I would pull those off too and put them in a pile. And so if you're into composting, what you do is you sort of keep your leaf pile going, and it doesn't require any turning or anything, but you just save it for the next year. And so if you can age it for about a year, that gives you your leaf mold, and then the following year you can put that down on the garden, instead of the fresher leaves.
Would you age it in like black garbage bags or something like that, or just in a pile?
It becomes kind of septic if you don't have enough airflow. So I have made leaf mold in garbage cans because I had a bunch of spare garbage cans that I wasn't using over the winter. So I just fill those with leaves and then put the lid on them, and from time to time, let some rain get in there to keep them moist, but without turning them or anything. And that definitely seemed to speed up the molding process for sure, just the stagnant air. But they still needed a little bit of air.
That's different than composting, isn't it, Kim?
Yes,
it's a different process.
It's a completely different. Yes, it's without the aeration.
Last year, I took all those leaves and put them in a green garbage bin. Mm-hmm. But then, as I put vegetables and stuff into my compost, I would put a layer of that over top, and then I'd put more vegetables in and a layer of that. So it kind of dwindled down into the green garbage bin, but I also added it into my compost.
Nice. Well, no, that's...
So hopefully that'll be ready this year.
Oh, yeah, that's you're heading the right direction there. Leaf mold is something that is very valuable in the garden. It's just that it's the time issue. So when we have active composting, we put green things into a pile and we churn them up and add oxygen, and they get hot and they break down relatively quickly, like over maybe just a couple months. But when we do leaf molding, we put them in a pile and we just leave them, try not to disturb them, and let the fungus grow in. And the fungus does the breakdown, and they like it to be cool and shady and moist like fungus would, and just not disturb too much. And then everything within the pile really gets that nice, crusty, crunchy sort of brown look to it, and you know it's ready. Yeah. So it's about a year. I think even in the garbage cans, I did mine, put them in the fall, put them into the garbage cans. I left them all the way to the end of June until they were ready in the garbage cans. But if I had them in a pile, I would have to leave them an entire year, and even sometimes a bit longer, depending on the species of tree. Because some things like the oaks, you know, they're just notorious for taking a long time to break down. So depending on the species, right?
I didn't think it was like a type of poplar or maple. I can't tell which one because I kind of did guerrilla gardening. I went to the local park and collected it. We don't treat anything there.
That's a good thing.
So then I just went over it with the lawnmower because it wasn't breaking down. So then I dumped it all out and chopped it up and then put it back on.
Well, that's a good thing. So it physically won't get in the way of your gardening. You can actually plant into it, churn it in a little bit, just work it into the ground. The garden a little bit.
And chopping them up really speeds
helps.
it up too.
Really helps,
breaks them down.
Right.
Well.
Okay. Well, great. Thank you so much.
Shelley,
I understand a bit more.
Good luck on that. Let us know how you make out. Okay, dear.
Okay.
Take care.
Thanks.
Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.
And we have Ronnie calling in from Victoria. Hi, Ronnie.
Hi. How are you doing?
We're well,
Good, thanks.
Good. I've got a hydrangea which I didn't end up deadheading in the fall.
Mm-hmm.
If I deadhead it now, am I going to get any flowers this year?
Is it one of the big waxy leafed ones, like the mop head type?
It's
pink or
like
blue?
round. They're round blossoms.
What
round
color?
leaves.
Pink or blue, or
they were bluish and purple and it was a mass of colors last year.
Yeah, fabulous. So that one, the key is any stem that has a flower on it now, you can just deadhead it.
Okay.
And without any problem, because those heads typically end up blind or close to it on the year after. And then any stems that didn't produce a flower will bloom beautifully this year.
Oh, okay.
So you can take them off for sure.
Oh, perfect. Okay.
I usually leave them a bit long, like I'll take them down maybe about 6 inches or so is about right.
Just how far down?
About 6 inches, 4 to 6 inches below the flower.
Oh, okay.
And then you'll see sometimes some big fat buds coming on the sides of the stems at this time of year.
Okay.
And those could be bloom buds too. So I like to keep the biggest, fattest buds on the stem. So follow down till you see those fat buds. Cut about a half an inch to 3/4 of an inch above those, and that'll keep them happy.
Okay.
Keep them healthy.
And I've got an indoor plant called a peperomia ferrari, Ferreyray, and it was looking really beautiful. It has kind of rubbery leaves on it, and I hadn't changed where it was sitting in the house for light or anything like that. But all of a sudden, it's got these instead of more leaves, it's got these long fingers coming off it.
Yeah, those are the flowers. Yeah,
that's a flower.
Yeah, that's how you can tell they're peperomias, because all the peperomia family, there's quite a few different types, and they all produce these like snaky looking blooms that shoot up, and the flowers are very insignificant, but it's just a fun part of having a peperomia when they get into bloom phase.
Okay.
And,
I was about to cut them all off because I thought something was wrong with the plant.
When they dry up, or when they're done, you'll be able to tell they're done, and you just snip them off.
Oh, okay. That's excellent.
Okay.
Thank you so much for your help.
You're very welcome. Thanks for calling in.
You're welcome. Bye-bye.
All right. Bye-bye.
Yeah, the old pepperomia. People used to ask for pepperoni. You have any pepperonis?
Pepperoni
nope, wrong store.
That's down at the
down to the delicatessen for that.
Yeah.
So I just want to talk to you a little bit about what Elaine Cameron was doing in 1953. We've got a couple of minutes left in this segment. The February of 1953 was very mild, very similar to this year.
Right.
She's hauled out the alyssum from the rockery in 1953 and February 2nd. And then she's tidying on the rockery and raked the tamarisk leaves from the sunken lawn. And people, when she mentions their sunken lawn, when I do my walkabout in June, when the garden club has their event there, and I do a little historical walkabout through the gardens, that reference to sunken lawn, that sunken lawn is still there. And you can still see the outline of her pond that she used to have, kind of a kidney-shaped fish pond, ornamental pond there. And you can see the outline, a little bit of sunken area, and that was her pond back in the day. So it's really quite historical, really kind of a neat thing. And so when she mentions these things, it's always fun to reference them. Cut off the roses and made new compost pile. Then she had a bonfire. Now, that's not something we could do nowadays, but she's having bonfires all the time, burning up all her stuff, you know. Sunshine and very mild. This is on the 4th of February, 1953. Sunshine and very mild. Then it got a little bit chilly, the snow on the ground, but she finished pruning her grapes on February 5th. Lovely day of sunshine on February the 8th. Bonfire of grape prunings, hauled out artichokes and cut down the suckers round the fruit trees. This is what she was doing in 1953. And we'll carry on with that because it's always fun to read this diary.
Yeah.
Elaine Cameron wrote her diary, gardening diary, just about every day of the year. And the last day that she was alive, she wrote in her diary, and I have that. And she passed away in her sleep that night, and that was it. She was an avid gardener.
Yeah,
and,
absolutely.
We love talking about Elaine Cameron, and she was also a piano teacher, too. And the Cameron family, of course, is still here with us, the progeny of the Elaine.
And she actually, wasn't there some notes about her going to the garden club?
Yes. Oh, yeah. Yeah. She entered flowers and that into the garden club over the years, too. Her and Mrs. License, which was just down the road, used to be right across the street from us on Ethel Street. We're going to take a short break. 250-862-2525 to get through to us. If you're living in the Okanagan here, if you're in Victoria or anywhere online, it's 1-888-780-4273. We'll be back with The Garden Show after this short break. You betcha. We are back with you, and just for fun, we're going to go time traveling again, back to 1953, and talk to Elaine Cameron. Well, we won't talk to Elaine Cameron, but we'll see what she's been doing in the garden. The 13th of February, the day before Valentine's Day in 1953. And just remember, folks, Ken it was a glint in his father's eye back then. And I was only 3 years old. I was 3 years old in 1953.
Right.
So wandering around the nursery, getting falling down and cutting my forehead. Scar. And my mom said, nobody will ever see the scar.
You were 3 then?
3 or 4.
Yeah, I was 3. I did the same thing.
Yeah, I cut my forehead. Well, and Mom said, it'll leave a scar, but no one will ever see it because it's above the hairline.
Yeah.
Excuse me. My mother thought I was going to keep my hair, I guess. Anyway.
No, I recall. I actually remember the event because I was out in the front yard playing. I was 3, and my mom came out and said, "It's time for lunch. Time to come in for lunch." And so I ran. She says, "Don't run," and I ran.
Of course you ran.
I ran, and I tripped and hit my head on the step, and then it was off to get stitches. And that was Dr. Niedermeyer, I believe.
Oh,
from the Niedermeyer, I think it was. Something like that.
Yeah, there you go.
There you go.
That's amazing. You remember that. Now, because that's a long time ago.
I can remember farther back than that. I can remember a long way back. I remember being probably 4 months old.
Really?
Yeah, 3-4 months old, something like that.
That's why you've got such a good memory for plants. You can remember.
Yeah, it is. There's something going on there.
Yeah. 4 months it would be pushing it for me, but I do remember my grandfather, my Grandpa Burnett.
Yep.
And I remember the way he walked. He walked with a bit of a waddle. He'd had rheumatic fever when he was a kid.
Yep.
And caused him to be slightly crippled in his walk.
Maybe rickets.
And he I just remember him walking with 2 pails, one on either hands, milk pails or something. And he died when I was 2 years old. And I remember once in the old Hudson Terraplane, him trying to shift the gears, and I know he must have been saying some, bad words because the air was turning blue, but I didn't know what the words meant. Right. And he was trying to get it wouldn't go into first gear, and it was grinding. And so anyway, I think it was a clutch
Isn't that
problem.
amazing?
Anyway, here we are,
amazing.
Rambling away, talking away, and we are now going to the phone lines because she's going to save the day. Carol. How are you doing?
I would like to ramble on about Lady Cameron, too. I was one of her piano students.
Oh, lovely. Yeah.
Really?
Back in the day, and I just have a lot of memories about her. One of them was after school, I would ride my bike and ride my bike down that long, long lane of trees, which was very frightening.
I know. It was. There was a lot of mystery and rumors about that thing, the headless horseman and all that stuff, yeah.
That's right. Well, I think I rode my bike very quickly down the lane, but I remember going to the house, and she'd be out in her garden putting manure on roses and things and pushing the wheelbarrow. And another frightening thing was going in the door. There was a huge suit of armor there.
Yes.
At the front of the door, and that used to really creep me out, too.
Well, yeah. What a character, though. I mean, it just brings it to life, the fact that you've seen her with her wheelbarrow, because she was always with a wheelbarrow, it seemed, when I'd go over there to visit her as a youngster. I didn't take piano lessons from her. I took them from Mrs. Pritchard on Sutherland Avenue. That was my piano teacher.
Yeah. My sister, who was older than myself, she took them from Mrs., I think it was Gatsky. But anyway, I didn't take too many piano lessons. Apparently, I wasn't a great piano student.
You didn't get into grade.
My mother to save her money.
You didn't get into grade 12 Toronto Conservatory, in other words.
I certainly didn't. No. But yeah, I have a lot of memories of Mrs. Cameron,
She's
and
a beautiful
it's
lady.
just fun to hear you guys talk about.
Well, I'm glad you appreciate that, because I've got this diary, and it just brings it to life. And of course, I grew up right there on Ethel Street.
Yes.
Within spitting distance from the Cameron property. There was 350 acres there of open ground, which is now, other than the gardens themselves, is all developed with homes and apartments and shopping centers and whatever. But when I grew up, there was 350 acres of land there, and we had 10 acres of land on Ethel Street.
Right.
And but even with 10 acres, we had to explore. So we went over to the Cameron. We called it the Cameron Fields, and we go over and I hate to say it, but we were chasing sheep.
Oh.
That was fun. That was a lot of fun chasing sheep.
I'm sure it was.
I don't think we hurt them, but it was fun to chase them.
I remember riding past your place also, and there was a lot of bush and everything, and I think there was a man that lived sort of in the bush, and we would always ride by, and we were quite, afraid of him as well. It was like, oh boy, really stepping out into danger zone.
Right. I wonder who that would be. Now, on the one side of Ethel was us, and on the other side was the Morey family or the License family, depending on when you were there. And there was quite a bit of bush there, and yes, there was a bit of there was a gentleman that was kind of, camping on the property.
Yes.
Yeah.
He had kind of a shack there or whatever. And,
yeah.
I remember that, and that was, like I say, there were rumors about him and how frightening he was. And
Carol, it was a different world back then, and I appreciate you bringing that home to us here. That was great.
Yep.
Appreciate the call.
Okay, thank you.
Okay,
bye-bye.
dear.
Have a great day.
Yeah, you too. Bye-bye now.
Bye-bye.
Yeah, there you go. Brings that Elaine Cameron to life. Actually brings it right to the present now. Lots of fun. You bet. So the Christmas tree chipping is done. If you haven't got your Christmas tree chipped, you can still take it to the city. Reference. Dad used to call them the
nuisance ground.
Nuisance ground. Yeah, the nuisance ground. Did you have that too when you were a kid?
Nuisance ground?
Nuisance ground.
No. We just had the dump.
Yeah, you had from Dad. Yeah, the nuisance ground. I guess it's a nuisance, so we got to get rid of it. Yeah? There we go. We have Bob phoning in. Good morning, Bob.
Yes. I am calling not to inquire about growing things, but it's about killing things.
Mm-hmm.
Now, about 2 or 3 weeks ago, you gave a recipe for spraying our indoor flower pot earth to keep down these little black flies that are thicker
Right.
than mosquitoes in a hot, swampy night.
Yep.
Was it a homemade recipe?
No, it's just it's a product you can buy at like Buckerfield stores or other stores. It's called Mosquito Dunks, DUNKS, and they're like a little it's a little donut looking thing, and usually there's 3 of them in a pack for usually about $6 or $7. And but they're a type of BT, which is a bacteria that consumes certain little flies and fly larvae. And so it works really good for mosquitoes, and it also works for these fungus gnats and that sort of thing.
Oh, that's what they're called, fungus gnats.
That get in your plants. And so because like one of these donuts will do like a fair-sized pond, so you just kind of chisel off a little piece, maybe a centimeter by a centimeter, and smush it up and put it into the the watering can and just stir it around and just give your plants a little watering with that. And that will do away with those guys because the larvae cannot resist it.
Now, and Bob, these flies, were they, flying around, bothering you during a visit in your backyard kind of thing?
No, we just noticed them indoors.
Okay, well
they seem to be flying in your face, and I guess
we were talking a while back. We were talking about these these hatch that happened last summer, where the flies were just these tiny little flies were all over the patio, and they were just getting in our food and everything. It was something. So I put these yellow sticky boards up, and I trapped them. Immediately, they all started going to the yellow sticky board, and within an hour, they were all gone. So stuck to the board.
Now, I tie one of those to the bill of my golf hat, because every hot summer we get these little no-see-ums flying in your face.
There you go.
Trying to breathe in the carbon dioxide.
Yeah.
Yeah, there you
go. Right,
Bob, thanks for the call. We appreciate it.
Thanks a lot.
Bye. Bye-bye. Bye-bye now. And we're going to take our break just a tad early because it's the last break of the day, and we want to make full use of the last 15 minutes of the show. So we're going to take a short break now, and we invite your calls when we come back with The Garden Show after this short break. And we invite your calls. It'd be nice to hear from you for the last little bit of The Garden Show today. First Garden Show of February, and it's about the 5th or 6th Garden Show of the year, and short month this month as it normally is, but it's kind of a longer short month because it's a leap year, and thank goodness Ken's going to have another birthday. He will never catch up to me, but he is going to have another birthday this year. My peas, I mentioned the peas, but the birds have been occupying our birdhouse. We got several birdhouses in our backyard.
Yeah, that is a bit strange.
And
I think
they have been occupying the birdhouses. Normally they don't. Normally the birdhouses
sparrows?
are empty. They're sparrows. Yeah.
Okay.
Normally the birdhouses are empty all winter. This year they're full of birds. The birds are going in.
They're hanging out.
Maybe they're just seeking shelter or something. But I have been putting warm water into the bird bath recently.
Oh, there you go. Nice.
And they've enjoyed that. The timing is very important because I don't want the birds to go in this nice warm bath, and then if it freezes at night, they could catch cold or something. And I don't want that to happen. So I'm being very
pretty
careful.
Nice. It's like hot springs.
Very tempting for the birds to get into that nice warm water.
Nice toasty
no
warm
question
water.
about that.
A little steam coming off of there. Hot tub.
So, Ken, what about the seeding situation? You are starting some seeds yourself, and Wendy's starting seeds. I'm starting seeds.
Yeah.
This early. Is there something we shouldn't be starting? I don't think we should start tomatoes quite yet.
No,
or cucumbers.
No. There's lots of things not to start.
Yeah.
It's just not that many to start. But what I say is it's a basic recipe for me. I pick up the seed pack and I look at it and it says 120 days to harvest or whatever. It'll say right on the seed pack. And anything that's over 100 days like that, you're going to want to have an early start, so you can harvest like this year. So depending, like in Canada, and especially as you go north, the seasons are shorter and shorter. So you definitely want to get things going. But some of the things just traditionally that we've got started early were things like in the flowering category, pansies and snapdragons were things that needed to be started early. And then in the vegetable category, of course, onions and leeks and things like that are usually pretty early, need to be started early. Peanuts are something as a late crop. So that's something.
Yeah,
if you like to try peanuts, you want to probably get those going about mid-February. So that means you got to buy them now to have them for that time. Get them going.
And you got to buy the peanut seed. Peanuts, roasted peanuts are not going to grow.
No, there's lots of peanuts that won't grow, but when you buy the seed, they do.
Yeah, they do. They do well. Yeah. And they do well in the Okanagan. It's nice. They love the heat.
My tip is also on peanuts is to use fresh, healthy potting soil because the seed is so big, they're prone to molding and rotting.
Right.
So you definitely need fresh potting soil.
It kind of goes with a lot of the seeding.
A lot of seeds.
Fresh potting soil. Clean. Yep. Sharon from Sandwich is calling in. Sharon,
good morning.
Yeah, good morning.
I really enjoy your plant of the week. I don't have any luck with ZZ plants, so I'm just switching over to my first J plant.
Oh, nice.
But I don't know what kind it is. It's in a very small pot, like a 4-inch little thing, square thing, and it keeps topping over. So I was wondering, should I be repotting it? And if I should repot it, when's the best time and what type of soil?
Is it the thicker leaf jade, like a shape of a, the leaf itself is
almond
maybe,
shape?
Yeah, almond shape?
Sort of. And then it has a tinge of, what do you call that? I've only had it for 3 months, I guess. It has a tinge of red on the edge.
Oh yes.
And the label doesn't have any care instructions or anything, so I didn't know if they because it keeps tipping over because it's top heavy.
They are top heavy. I had a big one that I finally gave away to someone that could manage it in their home. Huge jade plant with a trunk on it about 4 inches in diameter.
Yeah, you have to put them into like a clay pot or something that's heavy, and I even put rocks in the bottom of it to hold it up. And then but even just a small pot, if you have a decorative pot that might be a bit heavy, and just drop the plant into it.
Pot. Okay.
Yeah, that way you don't have to pot it up. You just drop it into it.
And the more you pot it up, of course.
It's so tiny right now. It's like 2 inches in diameter.
Oh,
like
yeah.
2 by 2 by 2, like is a rectangular one. So does a jade plant like a pot that's small or bigger? You know how some plants like to grow into the pot and then you just move it up 2 inches every 5, 10, 15 years?
Yeah, they don't mind being root bound. There's no question about that.
Oh, okay.
The problem is, as Ken was saying, they're so top heavy that you almost need a bigger pot to hold them. But then it's kind of a catch-22 because the bigger the pot, the bigger the plant gets. And it's just like you're chasing your tail around, and that's the issue. That's what I finally had to let my big jade plant go to someone who could manage it. I would have kept it because I loved it, but it's just got no room in the greenhouse in the wintertime.
And what kind of soil? Succulent soil or anything in particular?
Yeah, the well-drained succulent type soil because it's definitely by definition, it is a succulent.
Yeah, and almost no water over winter is important.
Oh, no water.
So
I got talking about water.
Yep.
First time in my whole life, I'm probably not born in a leap year, so I won't tell you my age. And my Christmas cactus actually bloomed for Christmas this year.
Oh, fabulous.
I didn't know you were not supposed to water. I didn't water it from September, October on.
Okay.
And I didn't have a dark closet or anywhere to put it in, and it actually bloomed. So my other question, if you've got time, I've got some Easter cactus, but it never told me what kind it is. Would I do the same thing, withhold the water now so it can bloom at Easter?
Yeah, a little bit. It has to go dry between waterings, but the key is cooling it right now. So once you're into early February, that's when you start cooling down your Easter cactuses.
Okay, and when do I water it then?
You can water it just as soon as it feels dry, like really dry, like literally bone dry in between waterings. Okay. And then you just give it a good soak. They are rainforest cacti, both of the Christmas and Easter cactus. So that means that they do need water from time to time. And so just to keep them happy and healthy and continue to
just let it go dry, because I think Easter's, is it early or late this year? I can't remember.
It's a bit early this year.
It changes all the time, right?
Yeah, I think it's on April Fool's Day. So 1st of April. It's very early.
It's just like the provincial budget.
Yeah, there you go.
Who picked that day? That's kind of silly.
Yeah.
So, in other words, my Christmas cactus now, do I just go back to watering regularly when it dries out now and then just withhold the water in September or whenever it was?
Yes, just keep the cycle, almost dry between waterings and then water, and then keep it in a bright location. Your Christmas cactus can rebloom if it's cool. If it's kept cool, it can definitely
Oh, I didn't know that.
Yeah, it'll rebloom. Bright light, cool conditions, that's what triggers them. And that's why with your Easter cactuses, you want to get them in that environment fairly soon in February. And
Yeah,
then
which is
generally you'll get some bloom starting in March, around the end of March.
Oh, fabulous. That's great. So then my jade plant doesn't need much water either then, right? Is that all through the year?
Yeah, they're definitely succulent desert plants. They don't mind watering through the regular season, like in the summer. Spring, summer, and fall is okay, but bone dry between each watering. And then in the wintertime, literally, I think I water mine about maybe twice through the winter. So I'll check it in early January, maybe give them just a little bit. Sometimes one of my tricks for watering these plants that are succulents and need to be dry is I only water them on one side of the pot.
Oh.
So instead of, like, I normally soak the entire surface of the soil, make sure the whole thing is soaked. But with the succulent, I'll just add water on one side of the pot so that the roots still predominantly stay dry, but there's just a little bit of moisture there they can uptake.
Oh, so do you water alternately then? 2 months later, you water the other side? How does it work?
You could, yeah. It's just, like I say, once at the beginning of January, I'll usually give them a little bit, and then once again, usually around towards the end of February a little bit, mid to end of February. And then, then I wait until they're dry again, maybe around the end of March. I might, depending on the weather, if it's really sunny, they need a little bit more water.
Excellent. So in other words, the succulents don't need that much water, but do they like to be watered from the top or soaked in from the bottom?
Yeah, generally from the top.
Okay.
All right.
Thank you, dear. We appreciate
your
call.
Excellent show as always.
Okay, dear.
Talk to you soon.
Yeah,
Bye-bye.
thanks for calling. Bye-bye.
Yeah, we're getting right close. And by the way, Easter Sunday is March the 31st this year.
Oh, yeah, that's what I was saying. So Easter Monday is the 1st. Yeah, that's the holiday. Yeah. Cool. There you go.
We are now going to do the tips and plants of the week.
You betcha.
And my tip, of course, was last week's tip, but I'm going to repeat it because it's so important and it is really a good tip. And that is to get out there and clean up your tools, your gardening tools. Get them ready for spring. That's a very important tip. And my plant of the week is more of a big group of plants, a genus Crassula, which includes the jade plant, which we just had a nice conversation about. And all sorts of these Crassulas are cool, easy to look after, and they're all succulents.
There you go. I also have a tip and a plant. My tip this week is to check out Seedy Sundays or Seedy Saturdays. They happen throughout communities, a lot in North America, a lot in Canada. But you can go to Seeds of Diversity, which is a website, and they have seeds. I believe their website is seeds.com. You can check that. And, they're the ones that headed this whole thing up and got people doing seed exchanges and trades and that sort of thing. So super fun. Check it out. Plant of the week this week is Hamamelis mollis. That would be the witch hazel shrub, which blooms these stringy-looking orange or yellow blooms in the wintertime, typically. And just a fun plant to try. There you go. It's a large shrub, by the way. Anyway, that's my tips and plants for this week. Remember to check GrowerCoach.com and GrowerCoach on YouTube.
You bet you can. And my Shigo quote of the week this week, and Hamamelis is very fragrant, too.
Yes.
Did you mention that? Yeah.
I didn't.
Yeah, very fragrant, very beautiful smell.
Yep.
My Shigo quote of the week this week is, trees are the most forgiving and the most giving and forgiving organisms on earth. There you go. I got it straight. We will see you next week with more of The Garden Show.